see the 20th question. I think we have done this just yesterday. It's an indirect way of asking what is the proactive and reactive approach. Do you agree? Short term and long term is the same thing. Very similar question as to what we did yesterday, but still write the framework. So the approach for this question is again something what you have written yesterday. That is the reactive versus proactive. Similarly, you have to write what is the short term versus long term. Need to shift, weakness associated. Yeah. What is the basic need to shift and why we need to shift from short term to long term? Okay, that is important. So what you will say, the national policy should reflect a paradigm shift in disaster management from a short term to long term perspective discuss. So basically, we can start off with the introduction about how India is prone to disasters. Being in a certain geography, India is obviously prone to many disasters, and the need to move towards the disaster centric approach is need of the hour. Keyword discuss means did not understand. What do you mean by keyword discussion, Aditya?
చివర్లో డిస్కస్ అని ఉంది కదా, అది పాజిటివ్ నెగటివ్ ఎట్లా ఇంక్లూడ్ చేయాలో.
Okay. You are trying to ask about the question, right? Okay. See, the tagline discuss means the statement you have to in detail analyze. Okay, for example, the national policy should reflect a paradigm shift in the disaster management from a short term to long term perspective. This is the statement and the tagline is discuss. So with regard to this statement, what is the validity of this statement? What is the importance of the statement? What is the context of the statement? You have to elaborate or discuss. If they say critically examine, okay, for this question it may not be relevant, but if they say critically examine, the given statement, you should give the positive side of it, you should give the negative side of it. You should give the positive and negative side and then give a conclusion or way forward. For example, if the question is like, we don't require disaster management, critically examine. So then you should give why we don't require disaster management, why we require disaster management, and then in the way forward, whatever is the your way of approach for that particular statement, you have to reflect and justify. Here discuss means this particular statement should be discussed in detail. Clear? Okay, so in this context you can introduce by saying how India is prone to disasters and then start off by the need for shift in the national policy. Then you can start off saying that now India is becoming more proactive in the approach. Instead of response and recovery, now we are concentrating more on prevention and mitigation part of the disaster management. We have come up with the CDRI, Coalition for Disaster Resilience, and then we have come up with many organizations, or we are the first country in the world to have a national disaster responsive force, and then we have NDMA Act. Okay, so we can write about all those, and then we are actively persuading the zonation part. So what is from a short term to long term perspective? So we are moving towards the India should reflect from a short term to long term. So when we are discussing about the long term initiatives, we have to concentrate more on the prevention and the mitigation part. So then you say need for the long term perspective is the prevention and mitigation, which the zonation, for example, zonation of earthquake prone zones, zone 2, 3, 4, 5. You can say, you can give an example of earthquake and draw a small diagram of India map and represent the zones and say, if we are able to do like this, this is a long-term perspective. The short-term perspective is the response and recovery, which now we have almost mastered. Okay, let's be honest. If today, if there is a cyclone, the local administration also is well equipped to deal with such cyclone. At least we are not hearing about the human loss in the cyclones. So with regard to many disasters, now we are in a better position to handle them. So short term wise, we are already in a commanding position to handle the disasters. The way forward is to further reduce the impact of the disasters, for which we have to have capacity building, trained personnel, integration across forces, and then finally you can conclude by saying we should have a nodal agency for having disaster response. Okay, and then maybe in the conclusion you can also write about the climate change, which is very evident, and hence this is going to impact our disasters. And the way forward is that we have to be ready to fight the disasters in a much advanced way than to react. So instead of react, we have to be proactive and try to fight them. Clear? Who has written this? Ranjani, you have written that? Rajni? Yes, multidimensional approach. Yes, postmortem, no institutional mechanism, paradigm shift. Yes, we have come up with many institutions to fight disaster. We have proper funds, disaster management funds. Yes, civil defense was strengthened. So you're bringing up that. Yes, disaster risk indexing, signing of yes, Sendai framework. For that, you can write, the need for having an single ministry. You have written separate disaster ministry in the conclusion. Yes, good answer, Rajni. You can write the how we are aggressively pursuing the zonation mapping. Okay, along with map vulnerable zones. Here you can probably, just in this fourth point, you can draw a small India map and explain the examiner about the zonation mapping, so that it will slightly add more value to your answer, because anyone who's writing this answer, who's well prepared, will write 80% similar answer. Okay. Even if I pick randomly people who have written this answer, most of them will write 80% same. So how do you want to stand out? Now that you are all writing quality answers, you only try to innovate how my answer should stand out. Okay, I am sure after seeing your points, if I pick up randomly anyone's answer, at least 80% will match. Okay, except for 1 or 2 points here and there, anyone must have written similar points. Now, out of these similar points and similar answers, how do you want your answer to stand out? So that is the next phase of planning, answer writing. In this context, you should slightly try to draw some diagrams, give certain examples, current affair oriented examples. So when you do that, okay, if there is some any innovative practice, so use of supercomputers in trying to monitor the cyclones. So that is the very practical and recent example. Okay, so being proactive and then asking people in the lower areas to vacate even before the water is coming there. Okay, so all these are proactive approaches. You have to give examples. For example, in the recent state, the cyclones were there, the floods were there. So the passage of water was anticipated, and the people in the low-lying areas were asked to vacate even before the water entered. So this was possible by using the technology. This is the proactive approach we are talking about. And then draw a diagram and zonation mapping. So now that we have zonation mapping, India central government is now taking care as to how these areas should go about with the development. So this is one example. So like that, you can definitely add value to your answers. Okay. because content wise, there is only so much you all can write. Okay. Because for disaster management, the solutions or the prevention, mitigation, response and recovery approach are almost similar for most of the disasters. So it's not that, it's a very case study oriented thing. It's not like an ethics case study where you are trying to innovate and give a out of box solution where examiner is impressed. Wow. So how you will try to bring value addition to your answer, all of you, is try to write current affairs oriented examples, try to draw these kind of diagrams wherever they are possible, so that your answer enrichment will be further possible. Okay, clear? You must have all seen Rajni's answer. You all pick up your answers, and I'm sure anyone who's writing seriously, 60 to 70% is same. Yes or no? I've not seen all the answers, but I can say confidently that whatever Rajni has written, most of you must have written same thing. Sriram? Sumant, yes, he is saying yes. What about you, Sriram? Is there in the class? Jitender?
Yes, sir.
So, do you agree that content-wise, whatever she has written, most of you must have written the same or similar? Not same, maybe similar, 60 to 70%.
Mostly, sir, we wrote about that older thing which we use, that reactive approach, and that's why the ad hoc approaches where we failed, and then we continued that to paradigm shift as preparedness and PMRR approach.
Yes. So hence, try to innovate with regard to the presentation. Okay, there you can enrich your answers. Clear, everyone?